Stay in the basement where you belong. The words echoed through the mansion's grand foyer as I tumbled down the last few marble steps. My sister Amanda's high-pitched laughter mixed with my brother Michael's deep chuckle. Through blurred vision, I saw my parents standing at the top of the stairs, champagne glasses in hand, smirking. I felt a sharp pain in my right shoulder as I pushed myself up from the cold floor. My designer suit, the one they didn't know was worth more than their monthly mortgage, was now covered in dust. Perfect. Look at her still trying to act dignified, Amanda sneered, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she pointed down at me. In that fake designer suit pretending she's successful. I remained silent, slowly reaching for my phone that had slid across the marble floor. The screen was intact, exactly as planned. The timing couldn't have been better. Someone needs to teach her where she belongs in this family, Michael added, straightening his cheap knockoff tie. The basement is too good for her. Mom took another sip of champagne, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the crystal. Honestly, dear, what did you expect? Coming to the family reunion dressed like that, pretending you're something you're not. Dad nodded in agreement. Living in that tiny apartment, working your mysterious online job. At least your siblings have real careers. I brushed off my suit and checked my watch. A genuine Patek Philippe hidden under my sleeve. 6:58 p.m. 2 minutes. The family reunion was in full swing, with about 50 relatives scattered throughout the mansion. Cousins, aunts, and uncles all gathered to celebrate the successful branches of the family tree. The same relatives who had been laughing at my failure for the past 5 years. Aunt Patricia, the self-proclaimed family matriarch, stepped forward. I tried to warn your parents years ago. Letting you study computer science instead of joining the family business was a mistake. Look at your siblings. Amanda runs our East Coast operations and Michael manages the West Coast division. I checked my phone again. 6:59 p.m. What are you looking at? Michael stomped down the stairs. Another one of your pathetic coding projects. I finally spoke, my voice calm and clear. Actually, I'm waiting for a news alert. Should be coming any second now. The grand television in the foyer, the one Aunt Patricia had insisted on installing to show off family photos during reunions, suddenly switched to breaking news. Right on schedule. Breaking news. Historic corporate acquisition rocks industry. Summit Industries has just completed the largest technology acquisition in the state's history, purchasing Henderson Global Enterprises for. The room fell silent. My mother's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the marble steps. But that's our company. Michael stammered. Henderson Global is our parent company. I stood up, brushing the last bit of dust from my suit. Correction. Was your parent company. Amanda rushed to the television, her designer heels clicking frantically. This has to be a mistake. Summit Industries, I've never even heard of them. Of course you haven't, I replied, pulling out my tablet. Summit Industries operates through subsidiaries. Would you like to see the organizational chart? The tablet displayed a complex corporate structure, with Summit Industries at the top. Below it were dozens of technology companies, including the one that had just acquired Henderson Global. You see, I continued, my voice echoing through the now silent foyer. While you were all laughing at my pathetic coding projects, I was building something. Those mysterious online jobs, they were my companies. That tiny apartment, just an office I use for meetings. My father's face had turned pale. But the acquisition cost $3.7 billion. I finished his sentence. Cash deal. No financing needed. Aunt Patricia grabbed the stair railing for support. That's impossible. You're lying. You live in a small apartment, drive a used car. I pulled out another document on my tablet. You mean the apartment building I own, or did you mean my personal residence? I turned the screen toward them, showing the deed to a waterfront estate 3 times the size of this mansion. The color drained from Amanda's face as she recognized the property. But that's the Wellington estate. They've been trying to sell it for years. They did sell it. To me. 2 years ago. I smiled. I also own this mansion, by the way. Bought it through a shell company last month when Uncle George's gambling debts finally caught up with him. Michael lunged forward, his face red with rage. You're making this up, show us proof. I calmly opened my banking app. Current liquid assets or total net worth. Actually, let's start smaller. Would you like to see the purchase agreement for Henderson Global? The room erupted in chaos. Cousins who had been snickering at me minutes ago were now frantically Googling Summit Industries. Aunts who had dismissed me as a failure were whispering urgently among themselves. Uncle George, who had been hiding his shame about selling the family mansion, looked like he might faint. "Why didn't you tell us?" my mother whispered, her perfect makeup now streaked with tears. "Tell you?" I laughed softly. "Like when I tried to tell you about my first successful startup. You said it was cute that I was playing businessman, and then spent the entire dinner praising Michael's new position as regional manager." I walked to the center of the foyer, commanding everyone's attention. "Or maybe when I tried to invest in the family business 3 years ago," Amanda said, and I quote, "We don't need charity from someone who can't even afford a new car." The television continued displaying details of the acquisition. Reporters were now discussing Summit Industries' track record of aggressive technological innovation and market dominance. While you were all focused on maintaining your country club memberships and leasing new luxury cars to keep up appearances, I was building something real. I turned to face my siblings. "By the way, those performance reports you've been hiding from the board. I've seen them all." Michael's face went even paler. "What? What reports?" "The ones showing how your mismanagement has cost the company millions. The fraudulent accounts Amanda's been using to cover up losses. The consulting fees being paid to shell companies owned by your college friends." I pulled up more documents on my tablet. "I have everything." Amanda stepped forward, her confidence returning slightly. "You wouldn't dare expose that. It would destroy the company's reputation." "The company's reputation?" I raised an eyebrow. "You mean my company's reputation? As of," I checked my watch, 12 minutes ago, "I own controlling interest in Henderson Global. Which means I also own all of its subsidiaries, including the precious family business you've been running into the ground." The implications slowly dawned on their faces. Years of nepotism, mismanagement, and fraud were now exposed to someone they had just pushed down a flight of stairs. "Monday morning there will be some changes," I continued. "New management, new board of directors, new corporate structure. Of course I'll need both of you to sign some paperwork first." "What kind of paperwork?" Michael asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Resignation letters, mostly, along with detailed admissions of your various creative accounting practices. In exchange I won't press charges." I smiled. I'm still family after all. Aunt Patricia stepped forward, her jewelry clinking nervously. "Now dear, let's not be hasty. We're all family here. Surely we can discuss this like adults." "Like adults?" I turned to face her. "Like when you adults pushed me down the stairs 10 minutes ago. Or like when you adults spent the last 5 years mocking everything I tried to build." The room fell silent again. Even the cousins who had been frantically Googling stopped to listen. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued, my voice firm but calm. "Everyone will stay right here while I make a few calls. Security teams are already on their way to all company offices to secure documents and servers. Can't have anyone trying to hide evidence over the weekend." As if on cue, phones started buzzing throughout the room. Executives, managers, and board members were all receiving notifications about an emergency board meeting scheduled for Monday morning. But what about us?" Amanda's voice cracked. "Our positions, our careers." "You mean the positions you got solely because of your last name? The careers built on fraud and nepotism?" I shook my head. "Those ended the moment you decided to demonstrate your superior status by pushing me down these stairs." I walked to the front door, where my driver was already waiting. "I suggest everyone enjoy the reunion. Monday morning will be interesting." As I reached the door, I turned back one last time. "Oh, and Michael, that tie you're wearing. It's not just a knockoff, it's a really bad one. If you're going to commit fraud, at least dress the part properly." The door closed behind me, leaving them all standing in shocked silence. Through the window I could see them starting to realize that their comfortable world of inherited privilege and assumed superiority had just crumbled. My phone buzzed with a message from my executive team. "Security teams in place. All offices secured. Data backup complete. Ready for Monday." Perfect. I had built my empire in silence, letting them believe I was a failure. Their arrogance had made them blind to the reality that their precious family business had been outmaneuvered by the very person they despised. As my car pulled away from the mansion, I could already imagine Monday's headlines. Tech giant Summit Industries announces major restructuring of recently acquired Henderson Global Enterprises. The bruise from my fall would heal quickly. The changes I was about to implement would last much longer. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, it's success they never saw coming until it was too late. The weekend passed in a blur of calculated activity. While my family was undoubtedly panicking in their respective homes, my team and I were orchestrating the most significant corporate restructuring the industry had seen in decades. Sunday evening, I sat in my real office, the entire top floor of the Summit Tower downtown, reviewing the final preparations for Monday. The wall of screens before me displayed live security feeds from every Henderson Global office across the country. Miss Harrison, my executive assistant, Sarah, entered with a stack of folders. The preliminary audits are complete. You'll want to see this. I took the folders, each labeled with a different subsidiary company name. How bad is it? Worse than we initially thought. Sarah replied, pulling up detailed spreadsheets on one of the screens. Your brother Michael didn't just mismanage the West Coast division, he actively siphoned funds through a network of shell companies. We've traced at least $47 million so far. I nodded, unsurprised. And Amanda, her creative accounting goes back 3 years. She's been inflating profits, hiding losses, and paying consulting fees to at least 12 different shell companies. The total amount diverted exceeds $95 million. The numbers were staggering, but not unexpected. I'd been watching them destroy our grandfather's legacy for years, waiting for the perfect moment to step in. My phone buzzed, another desperate message from my mother. Please, we need to talk before tomorrow. Your father is very ill. This stress could kill him. I showed the message to Sarah, who pulled up Dad's recent credit card statements on another screen. Your father's illness didn't stop him from playing golf yesterday, or booking a luxury cruise last week. Typical, I muttered, deleting the message. What's the status on the board members? Sarah switched to another screen, showing a matrix of names and connections. Most are scrambling to save themselves. We've received 7 calls from board members, offering to cooperate fully with the new management. 3 have already submitted documentation proving they tried to stop your siblings' fraudulent activities. And the loyal ones, 4 board members, are still aligned with your siblings. They've been meeting all weekend at the country club, probably trying to devise a strategy. I smiled, remembering how that same country club had rejected my membership application 3 years ago. Send their documented violations to the SEC. Hey. Let's see how loyal they remain. When federal investigators start asking questions. The elevator chimed, and my legal team entered, led by James Morrison, the sharpest corporate lawyer in the state. Everything's ready for tomorrow, James announced, spreading documents across the conference table. Resignation letters, admission statements, and settlement agreements, all legally bulletproof. Any attempts to fight back? I asked. Your brother's lawyer called twice, trying to negotiate better terms. Your sister's still thinking she can challenge the acquisition somehow. James shook his head. They don't realize how thoroughly we've documented everything. I reviewed the documents, each page representing another nail in the coffin of my family's arrogance. And the new management team. Sarah pulled up another screen, showing profiles of experienced executives I'd been recruiting quietly over the past year, all confirmed and ready. They'll arrive at 7 a.m. tomorrow, before the board meeting. Perfect. I stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city lights. Somewhere out there, my family was having their last night of pretending they were business royalty. What's the media coverage looking like? Every major network will cover the board meeting, Sarah replied. The story's already trending. Tech giant Summit Industries promises major announcements. Your siblings' fraudulent activities will make headlines by noon. I checked the time, 9:47 p.m. In less than 12 hours, the carefully constructed facade of the Henderson family business empire would crumble. My phone buzzed again. Amanda, this time. You can't do this to us. We're family. Remember who helped you with school projects, who taught you to ride a bike. The message made me laugh. Sarah, pull up the video from my first startup presentation 5 years ago. The screen showed a younger me, presenting my revolutionary software platform to the family board. Amanda sat there, filing her nails, while Michael played games on his phone. Dad was asleep, and Mom was scrolling through social media. "Your silly little computer program won't make any money," Amanda had said. "Stick to basic coding jobs. Leave the real business to us." That software platform now powered half the Fortune 500's data infrastructure. "Miss Harrison," James interrupted my thoughts. "There's one more thing. Your Uncle George is trying to challenge the mansion's sale." I turned back to the team. "On what grounds?" "He claims he wasn't of sound mind due to gambling addiction. His lawyers are preparing to file first thing tomorrow morning." "Interesting." I sat back down at my desk. "Show me the surveillance footage from his private poker games." Sarah pulled up videos showing Uncle George bragging about his brilliant deal, selling the mansion to what he thought was a foreign investment group. "I got 3 times market value," he boasted to his poker buddies. "Those foreign investors don't know anything about local real estate. Send that to his lawyers," I instructed, along with documentation of his other gambling debts. "Remind them that challenging the sale means everything becomes public record." The next few hours were a blur of final preparations. By midnight, everything was in place. Security teams had secured all offices, IT had locked down all systems, and the new management team was ready. As the others left for the night, Sarah handed me one last document. "The guest list for the reunion," she said softly. "Everyone who laughed when you fell down those stairs." I reviewed the names, remembering each smirk, each dismissive comment, each moment of humiliation. "Send them all invitations to tomorrow's board meeting. Let them witness everything." "Already done," Sarah smiled. Front row seats. Alone in my office, I watched the city lights and thought about my grandfather. He'd built Henderson Global from nothing, but his children and grandchildren had turned it into their personal piggy bank. Tomorrow I would restore his legacy, just not in the way anyone expected. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Michael. "You think you're so smart. Wait until tomorrow. You have no idea what you're up against." I forwarded the message to James with a simple instruction: add threatening communication to his file. Increase security at all locations. Then I sent my brother a single response: "Actually, I know exactly what I'm up against. See you at 9 a.m. Tomorrow would change everything. The family that had pushed me down those stairs would learn that they had actually pushed me straight into my moment of triumph. I closed my laptop and headed to my private elevator. In my car, I passed the Henderson Global headquarters building, its logo still glowing in the night sky. By this time tomorrow, that logo would be gone, replaced by the Summit Industries emblem. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking everything they have, it's making them watch as you transform it into something better than they could have ever built themselves. Monday morning arrived with the kind of clarity that only comes before a storm. I entered Summit Tower at precisely 8:30 a.m., wearing the same designer suit from the reunion, now perfectly cleaned and pressed. A reminder of where this all began. The lobby was already buzzing with activity. News vans lined the street and security teams were checking credentials at every entrance. Through the glass doors, I could see my family arriving, their usual confidence replaced by barely concealed panic. "They're all here," Sarah reported, falling into step beside me. "Your siblings arrived with their lawyers. Your parents are in the main conference room with Aunt Patricia. The rest of the family is being seated in the observation area." And Uncle George tried to bring his own PR team. Security stopped them at the door. Sarah handed me her tablet. "He's been making calls since 5 a.m., trying to find anyone who can stop this." The elevator ride to the top floor was silent. I used those moments to review the morning schedule on my phone. 9 a.m., board meeting begins. 9:15 a.m., presentation of evidence. 9:45 a.m., new management introduction. 10 a.m., press conference. 10:30 a.m., individual settlements. "The SEC representatives are already here," James said, meeting us as the elevator doors opened. "They're quite interested in the documentation we provided." I nodded, walking through the executive suite. Through the glass walls, I could see the main conference room. My family sat on one side, a collection of worried faces and fidgeting hands. The other side held my team, attorneys, auditors, and the new executive board. "Miss Harrison," Sarah caught my attention. Your sister's trying one last move. She's offering to split the company. I laughed softly. Split what? The debt she's accumulated. The fraudulent contracts. At exactly 9 a.m., I entered the conference room. The familiar faces that had looked down at me from the top of those stairs now looked up with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. Good morning, I began, taking my place at the head of the table. I trust everyone received the agenda. Michael's lawyer started to stand. We'd like to propose, no proposals. I cut him off. This isn't a negotiation. This is an announcement of decisions already made. The screens around the room came to life, displaying spreadsheets, bank transfers, and email chains. 5 years of evidence, meticulously collected while they thought I was failing. Let's start with the West Coast Division. I continued, nodding to Sarah. The screens focused on Michael's operations. In the past 3 years, $47 million has disappeared through various shell companies. Would you like to explain these transfers, Michael? My brother's face went from red to white. His lawyer whispered something urgently in his ear. No explanation. Then let's move to the East Coast. The screens shifted to Amanda's records. $95 million. Fake consultants, inflated contracts, hidden losses. Did you really think nobody would notice? You can't prove any of this. Amanda stood up, her voice shaking. These documents could be fake. I smiled. You mean like the fake performance reports you've been showing the board? The ones created on your personal laptop? I nodded to Sarah again, who distributed copies of Amanda's actual hard drive contents to everyone in the room. That's private property. Amanda shrieked. Actually, James interrupted. That laptop was company property, and its contents are now evidence in a federal investigation. The room erupted in chaos. Board members started frantically reading the documents. Lawyers huddled with their clients. My parents sat frozen, watching their carefully maintained illusion of success crumble. Enough. I raised my voice slightly, bringing immediate silence. Here's what happens now. Option 1. You sign the resignation letters and admission statements in front of you. You walk away with enough to live comfortably, though not extravagantly. Option 2. You refuse, and everything goes public. The SEC has enough evidence to ensure you spend quite some time in federal prison. Aunt Patricia stood up, her jewelry jangling nervously. You would send your own family to prison. What would your grandfather say? My grandfather? I turned to face her directly. Let's talk about grandfather. The man who built this company from nothing, who believed in innovation and integrity. I pressed a button, and new images appeared on the screens. Old photos of my grandfather in his first small office. While you were all busy buying luxury cars and joining country clubs, I was reading his original business journals, learning his real values, building something worthy of his legacy. I walked around the table slowly. He would be ashamed of what you turned his company into. Michael slumped in his chair. How long? He whispered. How long have you been planning this? Since the day you all laughed at my first startup presentation. 5 years, 3 months, and 12 days. I stopped behind his chair. Every time you mocked my little computer projects. I was building the platform that would eventually buy you out. Every time you excluded me from family business discussions. I was documenting your failures. The screens changed again, showing Summit Industries' corporate structure. Dozens of successful technology companies, all built or acquired quietly over the past 5 years. Your morning coffee. I looked at Amanda. The app you use to order it is one of mine. Your smart home system. I turned to Michael. Built on my platform. Even the software running your precious luxury cars was developed by one of my subsidiaries. The realization dawned on their faces. While they were protecting their small kingdom, I had built an empire right under their noses. You have 30 minutes to decide, I announced. Sign the papers, or face the consequences. For those who sign, private cars are waiting to take you home. For those who don't, I gestured to the SEC representatives, waiting in the next room. What about the family business? My father finally spoke, his voice barely audible. The family business died years ago. I replied. What I'm building is something entirely different, something grandfather would have been proud of. As if on cue, Workers outside began removing the Henderson Global logo from the building. Through the windows, we could see the Summit Industries emblem being installed. 28 minutes later, every document was signed. My siblings, their lawyers, and most of the board members were already being escorted out. Only my parents remained, sitting shell-shocked in their chairs. The mansion, my mother started, is being converted into a technology education center. I finished for her. Grandfather always believed in giving back to the community. And us, my father asked. You have your house, your cars, and enough to live on. The rest, I gathered my papers. The rest you lost the moment you stood at the top of those stairs and watched your children assault your other child. Sarah appeared at the door. The press is ready. I straightened my suit, the same one they had covered in dust, and headed for the door. At the threshold, I turned back one last time. You always said I needed to learn my place in this family, I said softly. I finally have. At the top, the press conference would announce the changes. The business world would soon know how a supposed failure had outmaneuvered one of the oldest family businesses in the state. But more importantly, my grandfather's legacy would finally be restored, through the child they had all underestimated. 1 month after the takeover, I sat in my grandfather's restored office, now my private workspace at the Summit Tower. The room looked exactly as it had in his old photographs. Simple, elegant, focused on work rather than showing off wealth. The only modern addition was a wall of screens displaying real-time data from all Summit Industries operations. Sarah entered with the morning reports. The transition is complete. All Henderson Global divisions have been successfully integrated into Summit's structure. Stock price is up 47% since the announcement. I nodded, reviewing the numbers. And the family? Your siblings have moved out of state. Amanda's in Arizona, trying to start a small consulting firm. Michael's in Colorado, working for a friend's company. Sarah pulled up their latest social media posts. They've both gone surprisingly quiet. And my parents, still in their house, though they've had to significantly downsize their lifestyle. Your mother tried to rejoin the country club last week. But, Sarah smiled slightly, their membership was declined. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same club that had rejected me was now courting Summit Industries for corporate events. My phone buzzed. A message from Aunt Patricia. The family is falling apart. Are you happy now? Was your revenge worth destroying everything? I showed the message to Sarah, who pulled up the latest community impact reports. Should I show her the numbers? 3 new tech education centers opened in underprivileged areas. Full scholarships for 500 students. Innovation grants for 50 startups. No, I replied, deleting the message. Some people will never understand the difference between destruction and transformation. A soft knock at the door interrupted us. James entered with the elderly gentleman. Mr. Wilson, my grandfather's former assistant. You wanted to see me, Mr. Wilson asked, looking around the restored office with misty eyes. Yes, I gestured for him to sit. I found something interesting in grandfather's old journals. A letter, written the day before he handed control to my father. I opened the worn leather journal, carefully preserved all these years. He wrote about his fears for the company's future, about how the family might lose sight of what really mattered. Mr. Wilson nodded slowly. He worried about that a lot near the end. Watched your father and aunts focus more on status than substance. The letter mentioned you. I continued. Said you were the only one who understood his real vision for the company. Your grandfather believed business should build things, solve problems, help people. Mr. Wilson said softly, not just make the rich richer. I turned the journal toward him. He also wrote about a secret project, something he worked on in his final years, but never launched. Mr. Wilson's eyes widened. The education initiative. He wanted to turn the company's resources toward teaching technology to underprivileged youth. Your father killed the project the day he took over. Well, I smiled, pulling up new blueprints on the screens. I'm bringing it back, starting with the old mansion. The screens showed the transformed family mansion, now a state-of-the-art learning center. Classrooms, labs, Innovation spaces. Everything my grandfather had dreamed of. He would have loved this, Mr. Wilson whispered, tears in his eyes. That's why I asked you here. I said, I want you to help run it. Build the program he envisioned. Show these kids what's possible when someone believes in them. As Mr. Wilson nodded enthusiastically, Sarah interrupted with breaking news. The Henderson Global story is trending again. Someone leaked photos of your fall down the stairs at the reunion. I checked the news feeds. Social media was buzzing with the images, but not in the way my family might have hoped. Instead of embarrassing me, the photos had become a symbol of resilience. From pushed downstairs to corporate leadership, was the running headline. Should we respond? Sarah asked. No need, I replied. Success is the best response. Just then, my security team alerted me to visitors in the lobby. The live feed showed Michael and Amanda trying to talk their way past reception. Let them up, I instructed. But first show them something. When my siblings arrived at my office, they had to walk past the new wall of innovation. A massive display showing real-time updates from all the education centers, startup incubators, and community programs Summit Industries now supported. Nice place, Michael said awkwardly, standing in the doorway. Very, grandfather. That's the point, I replied, not inviting them to sit. What do you want? Amanda stepped forward, clutching her designer handbag, probably one of her last luxury items. We've been thinking about everything, about how we treated you. And, I kept my voice neutral. And we wondered if maybe there might be a place for us here. Michael finished. Not like before, but something. I studied them carefully. Their expensive clothes had been replaced by off-the-rack business wear. Their arrogant postures were gone. For the first time, they looked human. There might be, I said slowly. But not here. I pulled up a map, showing Summit's new education centers. We're opening facilities across the country, teaching kids what I had to teach myself, showing them they can build something meaningful, regardless of their background. Understanding dawned on their faces. You want us to teach? Amanda looked shocked. I want you to learn, I corrected. Start at the bottom. Work with these kids. Understand what it means to build something real. I stood up. If you can do that for 1 year, prove you've changed, then we can discuss other opportunities. They exchanged glances, years of privilege warring with their new reality. One more thing, I added. The first lesson you'll teach these kids. Show them the photos of you pushing me down those stairs. What? Michael protested. Why? Because then you'll tell them how I turned that moment into this. I gestured at the empire around us. Show them that success isn't about who pushes you down. It's about how you get back up. After they left, Sarah pulled up the company's latest innovation statistics. 17 new patents this month, 43 startups funded, 200 jobs created. Grandfather's real legacy. I smiled, touching his old desk. Not the family name, but the impact we can have. Mr. Wilson, still emotional from earlier, stood to leave. You know, he said at the door. Your grandfather used to say something about success. He said it's not about getting even. I finished the quote with him. It's about getting ahead, while lifting others up. As the sun set over the city, I looked out from my office. The same view my grandfather had enjoyed decades ago. The Henderson Global logo was long gone, replaced by Summit's emblem, a stylized mountain peak reaching upward. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from one of our education centers. A young girl had just completed her first coding project, beaming with pride in the attached photo. That smile, that sense of achievement, that was worth more than all the revenge in the world. Sometimes the best way to prove them wrong isn't to push back, but to rise so high they can't help but look up and wonder how they missed your potential. In the end, they had pushed me down those stairs, thinking it would keep me in my place. Instead, they had pushed me straight into my destiny, not as the failure they assumed I was, but as the success my grandfather always knew I could be. The end.